The phone buzzed at exactly 2:37 a.m. Ryan Blake stirred under the thick duvet, disoriented. The room was dark, quiet, save for the humming of the ceiling fan and the soft breathing of the woman beside him. Emily lay curled up on her side, her dark hair spilling across the pillow like ink. The light from the phone screen cast a cold glow on the nightstand. He reached for it, squinting. One new message. Unknown number. Check your desk. Top drawer. That was it. 5 words. No name. No emojis. Nothing else. A prank? Wrong number? He stared at the message for a few seconds. Something about it felt off. Not just creepy, it felt deliberate. The kind of message you didn't just ignore. He looked over at Emily. Her chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. She hadn't moved. Their dog, Charlie, was sleeping soundlessly in his bed at the foot of theirs. Ryan could hear the distant ticking of the clock in the hallway. Everything was still. Too still. He slid out of bed, careful not to make a sound. The hardwood floor was cool beneath his bare feet as he padded quietly down the hall toward his office. The house smelled like lavender and wood polish, with a lingering trace of the wine they'd shared the night before. A celebration of sorts. Ryan had just signed the biggest deal of his life. Millions. Enough to buy them the kind of life most people only dreamed about. He opened the door to his office. The desk sat neatly by the window, papers stacked, laptop shut. Nothing looked out of place. Still, he walked over and opened the top drawer. There it was. A plain brown envelope. No markings. No name. He picked it up slowly, heart starting to thump louder in his chest. The flap was sealed. It felt thick, like there was just a single item inside, something flat and solid. He opened it. Inside was a photograph. Just one. It was a photo of him, or someone who looked exactly like him, standing in front of a hotel in what looked like Mexico. Palm trees in the background. A white stucco building with a tiled roof. The man in the photo was laughing, one arm slung around a petite woman with curly hair. Ryan recognized the shirt. It was an old one he hadn't worn in over a year. He hadn't even thought about that shirt in months. But that wasn't the part that made his stomach twist. He had never been to Mexico. He turned the photo over. 2 words were scrawled on the back in neat, slanted handwriting. Ask Emily. Ryan's blood ran cold. He dropped into the office chair, staring blankly at the photo. His breath was shallow. A faint buzz filled his ears. He looked again at the man in the photo. The resemblance was uncanny. Same build. Same jawline. Even the tiny scar above the right eyebrow, one he got when he fell off his bike at 12. It was him. But it couldn't be. What the hell was going on? A dozen thoughts collided in his head. Was it photoshopped? A cruel joke? A scam? His eyes darted back to the hallway. Emily was still asleep. Or at least he thought she was. Suddenly, the house that had always felt safe and warm felt strange. Foreign. He rubbed his face with both hands, trying to stay calm. He needed answers. But confronting Emily now, in the middle of the night, while half asleep and half lucid? No. He needed to think. To investigate. Something about the message, the photo, this whole thing, smelled of something much deeper than a prank. He went back to bed but didn't sleep a wink. The next morning, Emily was in the kitchen, humming softly to herself, flipping pancakes. She looked the same as always, graceful, warm, effortlessly beautiful. She smiled when she saw him. Morning, babe. You okay? You look tired. Ryan managed a tight smile. Didn't sleep well. She kissed him on the cheek, her lips warm. That's unusual for you. Big win hangover? He sat down at the table, studying her face. She had been with him when he was broke. When he was chasing contracts, working long hours for little payoff. Emily supported him, emotionally and financially, when no one else did. They shared everything, at least, that's what he thought. Now? He wasn't so sure. He tried to keep his voice casual. Hey, have I ever been to Mexico? Emily paused, mid-pour with the syrup. She blinked. What? Mexico. Have I ever been there? With you, maybe. A trip I forgot or something? She laughed lightly, shaking her head. No, why? Planning a getaway? Just curious, he said quickly. Saw a photo online. Thought it looked familiar. Her smile lingered, but her eyes studied him now, closer, sharper. Everything okay? He nodded, too fast. Yeah. Just, tired. Forget I asked. That day, Ryan went down a rabbit hole. He scanned his phone for messages. Checked his emails. Looked at old photos on his cloud storage. Nothing about Mexico. Nothing about that shirt. Nothing that explained the envelope. He even tried tracking the number that sent the text. It was a burner phone. No leads. By afternoon, he found himself doing something he hadn't done in years, snooping. He started small. Her nightstand. Then the drawers in the guest room. Nothing suspicious. Her laptop was password protected, but he knew her favorite, Charles 13. And it worked. Her email looked clean. Too clean. No personal messages, no unusual names. A few shopping receipts. Calendar reminders. All too ordinary. But when he opened a hidden folder labeled Work, he found something strange. Scanned documents. Old ones. Medical records. A birth certificate. Not hers. A girl named Ava Carlson. Born in 1990. Mother, Emily Carlson. Father, unknown. Ryan blinked. He did the math. Emily would have been 17 at the time. She had never mentioned a daughter. Ever. He felt his throat dry up. He kept digging. A few photos followed. A little girl with dark curls, big brown eyes, a crooked grin. She looked about 5 or 6. Then, nothing. No more pictures. No more documents. Ryan's mind spiraled. Who was Ava? Why was she hidden away in a folder Emily never talked about? And what did this have to do with Mexico, and the photo? By the time Emily got home that evening, Ryan had barely moved from the couch. His head was pounding, his chest tight. She tossed her bag on the chair and walked in with a smile. You didn't answer your phone all day. Everything okay? Ryan stared at her. Everything inside him wanted to ask. Demand the truth. Shake the answers out of her. But he didn't. Not yet. Instead, he smiled weakly. Yeah. Just needed some time to think. She raised an eyebrow. Think about what? He looked her dead in the eye. Us. That night, Ryan sat outside under the stars, unable to sleep. Charlie lay beside him, tail thumping lazily. He held the photo in his hands again, flipping it back and forth. The hotel behind him in the photo had a name on the awning, blurred but barely legible, Hotel Mar Azul, Playa del Carmen. He pulled out his phone and started searching. It was real. A boutique resort. Opened 15 years ago. Same architecture. Same color palette. He zoomed in on the photo again. The woman beside him, was that Emily? It was hard to say. Her face was turned slightly, caught mid-laugh. If it was Emily, then why would she pretend this never happened? And if it wasn't, who else looked so much like him? Suddenly, the text made sense. Ask Emily. Someone was trying to break something open. But who? And why now? He was rich now. Just came into a lot of money. Enough to attract jealousy. Or blackmail. Maybe even danger. But none of that scared him as much as one single possibility. What if Emily had lied to him for years? What if the life they'd built was based on a hidden past? And what if that past wasn't just a secret, but a trap? Ryan hadn't spoken a word to Emily the entire next day. Not because he was angry, but because he was afraid. Afraid of what he might learn if he asked the wrong question. Afraid of what she might say if he asked the right one. Instead, he played his part like a man in a play. Smiling. Nodding. Pretending things were normal. Inside, he was unraveling. By the afternoon, he'd booked a ticket to Mexico. One way. The flight to Playa del Carmen landed at midnight. The air was thick with salt and humidity, the sky a dark velvet above the glowing streets. Ryan didn't check into a hotel. He walked directly to the Hotel Mar Azul, the one from the photo. It looked the same. Even after all these years, the painted white walls, the terracotta roof, the ivy creeping along the archways, it was exactly like the picture. His stomach twisted as he stood outside, staring at it, wondering if he was being watched. Wondering if the version of him in the photo had stood on this exact spot once before. He entered the lobby. The night clerk, a young woman with bleached blonde hair and tired eyes, looked up. "Necesita ayuda?" Ryan cleared his throat. "I'm looking for someone. Maybe you can help me. Have you worked here long?" She shook her head. "No, senor. Only 1 year." "Is there anyone who's been here longer? Like, 10 years? 15? She hesitated. "Maybe Jorge. He works mornings. You can come back tomorrow." Ryan sighed and nodded. "Okay. 1 room, please." She handed him the key without another word. He barely slept that night. When morning came, he was at the lobby desk by 7 a.m., waiting for Jorge. The clerk was an older man in his 60s, with deep creases around his eyes and a permanent limp in his left leg. Ryan showed him the photograph without saying anything. Jorge's face changed immediately. Recognition. Shock. Then, fear. "Donde encuentro esto?" the man asked, voice low. "I need to know who this man is," Ryan said. "And the woman. This was taken here. Right?" Jorge hesitated. Then slowly nodded. "See. Here. But, long time ago. Do you remember them?" Jorge looked again at the photo. "The man looked like you. Exacto. Same eyes. Same smile. He stayed here, maybe 16, 17 years ago. Very quiet. But the woman." He stopped, eyes darkening. "What about her?" Ryan pressed. "She was nervous. Always looking behind. I think she was hiding." Ryan's pulse quickened. "Do you remember her name?" "No. But she paid in cash. American dollars. They didn't stay long. Maybe 2 days. Then, gone." "Did they say why they came?" Jorge shook his head. "No. But one night, she cried. Loud. I heard her. He was holding her, saying it would all be over soon. That they'd be free." "Free from what?" Ryan wanted to ask more, but Jorge looked away. As if remembering brought pain. She left something. After they checked out, Jorge said, digging through the drawer beneath the counter. He returned with a small black notebook, dusty and frayed at the edges. She dropped this. We keep lost things in case someone returns. But no one ever came. Ryan took it with shaking hands. Back in his room, he opened the notebook. The pages were filled with a woman's handwriting, loopy and slanted. It was a journal. In the first entry, the name E. Carlson was written at the top. His heart pounded. It was Emily's. Journal entry, March 18, 2008. We finally made it. I don't know how much time we have, or if they're still looking for us, but for now, we're safe. I still can't believe how much he looks like him. Every time I see his face, I forget who he is, and who he isn't. Ava is gone. But if they find us, she'll be gone for good. I'll do whatever it takes to protect what's left. Ryan blinked. What did she mean? Who was he? What happened to Ava? He flipped forward. March 21, 2008. He wants to start over. He says we can change names, move far away. No one will find us. But how can I erase everything? How can I forget what we did? What they did? Ryan felt sick. He flipped to the final page. It was dated just 2 days before the hotel checkout. March 26, 2008. He's gone. He said he'd meet me at the train station, but he never showed. Maybe he got cold feet. Or maybe, they got him. I can't go back. I can't let them find out who I really am. So I'll become someone else. From today on, Emily Blake never existed. And neither did Ava. Ryan's hands trembled. The woman he'd lived with for years, the woman he loved, had written those words. She had faked her identity. She had run from something, or someone. And she had done it without ever telling him a word. But how? She'd been with him since his struggling days. If she had a secret, if she had enemies, wouldn't she have been paranoid? Afraid? He closed the notebook slowly. Suddenly, the text made sense. The photo. The words, "Ask Emily." This wasn't about money. This was about truth. Back in the States 2 days later, Ryan returned home to silence. Emily wasn't there. Her car was gone. So was Charlie. He walked inside, setting his bag on the floor. Everything looked normal. Tidy. Clean. But something felt off. A tension in the air. Like the moment before a storm hits. He noticed the photo. The one he'd hidden in the desk drawer. It was now sitting on the kitchen counter, face up. Beneath it, a sticky note. You shouldn't have gone. Panic surged through him. He pulled out his phone and called her. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. He checked the garage. Her suitcase was gone. So was the journal. His mind raced. She knew. Somehow, she knew he'd gone to Mexico. She must have tracked his flight. Or saw the journal was missing. Maybe she even had someone watching him. He sat down, chest tight. Why run now? Then, his phone buzzed. A video message. He opened it, hands shaking. Emily was sitting in the driver's seat of her car. Eyes red. Face pale. Ryan, she said. Her voice cracked. I didn't want this to happen. I wanted to leave the past buried. But you went digging. So now, you deserve the truth. The video cut to black. Then a new clip began. Grainy. Old. A surveillance camera feed. A woman, young Emily, was standing in a hospital hallway, arguing with a man. A doctor. Ryan couldn't hear the sound, but the body language was clear. She was angry. He was nervous. Then, she slapped him. The timestamp read, June 2007. Ryan paused the video. That was the year Ava would have been about 17. He played the next part. Now the same doctor was shown alone, pacing. Then Emily returned, this time with a child. A young girl with dark curly hair. She looked up into the camera for 1 second. And Ryan felt everything inside him collapse. The girl had his eyes. Not Emily's. His. He dropped the phone. Memories came flooding back. The sleepless nights. The strange phone calls Emily sometimes received and never explained. The way she used to flinch at loud noises. Her obsession with never using real names on travel forms. The way she always avoided talking about her past. He thought it was just trauma. Maybe a bad childhood. But this? He went to the bedroom. Pulled open the drawer where Emily kept her documents. Birth certificate. Social security card. All fakes. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. Had he been the other man all along? A replacement for someone else? Or worse? Had he been her mark? The doorbell rang. Ryan froze. He wasn't expecting anyone. Another ring. Longer this time. He walked slowly to the door and looked through the peephole. No one. Then, something slid under the door. A USB drive. No note. No markings. Just the device. He plugged it into his laptop, breath held. One file. Ava_case_closed.pdf. He opened it. A scanned police report. Dated 2008. Missing person, Ava Carlson. Age, 17. Mother, Emily Carlson. Father, unknown. Status, presumed deceased. Case closed. No leads. Ryan scrolled further. Attached was a newspaper clipping. Teenage girl vanishes after mother flees town. Suspected foul play. Investigators believe mother may have harmed child before disappearing. No arrests made. Mother never found. His head swam. Was Emily hiding from the law? Was Ava alive? Or, was she buried under the lies? The final page had a note scribbled in red ink. You were never meant to find this. But now that you have, there's no going back. Ryan sat motionless in front of his laptop, the glow of the screen casting sharp lines across his face. The words, presumed deceased, repeated in his mind like a broken record. Ava Carlson. Age 17. Missing. Presumed dead. The document on the USB drive was a knife to the gut, but it wasn't just what it said. It was the implication. Emily had a daughter. That daughter might have died. And now someone wanted him to know. His phone buzzed. Another message. This time, it was a text. No name. No number. Just a location pin. Downtown. A coffee shop. 11 a.m. Today. He checked the time. 10:14 a.m. His hands trembled, but there was no hesitation. He grabbed his coat, left the house, and got into the car. He drove in silence, barely hearing the engine, barely blinking. The streets blurred past as his thoughts raced. Was it Emily? Or was it someone else? Someone watching both of them? And who the hell had that USB? The coffee shop was old, the kind of place that smelled like burnt espresso and dusty newspapers. The walls were lined with vintage jazz records. A broken ceiling fan spun overhead. Ryan scanned the room. Only 4 people inside, a couple in their 20s, a barista behind the counter, and a girl in a gray hoodie sitting in the far corner, back straight, watching him. She had the same eyes. His eyes. Ryan's feet moved before his brain did. He crossed the room slowly, cautiously, and stood across from her. "You came," she said. Her voice was soft but sure. American accent. No fear. Just observation. "You're Ava," he said. "Aren't you?" She blinked. "No," she said flatly. "But I knew her." Ryan felt cold. "You knew her? Is she alive?" The girl gestured to the seat across from her. "Sit down, Mr. Blake. We don't have long." He sat. "You look like him," she said. "Too much, honestly. It's unsettling." "Like who?" Ryan asked. "My father," she replied. His breath caught in his throat. "You're Emily's daughter?" The girl smiled faintly. "Sort of. Technically, yes. But she wasn't just a mother. She was a storm." Ryan leaned in. "I need the truth. All of it. No more riddles." She stared at him for a moment, then reached into her hoodie pocket and slid over an envelope. Inside were old photographs. Black and white at first glance, but faded with time. Ryan pulled one out. A hospital room. A teenage girl in a hospital bed. Tubes. Monitors. Thin hair. She was sick, the girl said. Terminal leukemia. Diagnosed at 16. The doctors gave her 6 months. Ryan flipped to the next photo. Same girl. With Emily beside her. Smiling, but it was forced. Both of them looked like they were pretending not to fall apart. "She didn't want to die in a hospital," the girl continued. "So they ran." Ryan shook his head. "But the report was written after they disappeared," she finished. "The cops had no leads. Emily changed their names. Faked identities. Hid Ava until she passed away 6 months later in a small village near Oaxaca." Tears pricked Ryan's eyes. "So Ava is dead?" The girl nodded slowly. "Yes. But her story isn't." She slid over a second envelope. "This is where it gets complicated." Ryan opened it. Inside were printouts, old case files, newspaper articles, medical records. One headline stood out. "Doctor convicted in illegal clinical trials scandal, patients missing." Another page showed a mugshot, a balding man in a lab coat. The same doctor from the hospital surveillance video. "He wasn't just a doctor," the girl explained. "He was experimenting on terminal kids. Using unapproved treatments for money. Emily found out too late." Ryan's head spun. "Emily threatened to expose him," she continued. "But he had connections. The clinic covered it up. So she stole Ava away. Went off the grid." Ryan felt sick. So she wasn't running from the law, she was running from them. The girl nodded. "Exactly. The people she crossed, don't forgive." Ryan leaned back in his seat, stunned. He looked at the girl. "So who are you?" She hesitated. "I'm what's left," she said. "Emily's insurance policy." "What does that mean?" "I was placed into a foster system under a fake identity. One of Emily's allies helped me disappear. I've been keeping watch ever since, making sure you were safe." Ryan's voice cracked. "Why me?" "Because Emily fell in love with you. And that made you a liability." He laughed bitterly. "I was her husband. She didn't trust me with the truth. She wanted to protect you. You were the only thing in her life that wasn't built on a lie. But when you started asking questions, she leaned forward. You triggered the alarm. Ryan shook his head. Where is she now? The girl reached into her hoodie again, pulled out a folded note, and slid it across the table. Ryan opened it. It was written in Emily's handwriting. I'm sorry. I tried to build a life where you didn't have to know. But I see now that I was wrong. If you want answers, you'll find them at the cabin. The one I said never to go to. Ryan stared at the words. He remembered the cabin. Tucked deep in the woods, hours from the city. Emily had always insisted they never go there. Said it was unsafe. Dangerous. Off-limits. Now he knew why. 2 hours later, Ryan was on the road. Dirt kicked up behind his tires as he drove into the dense forest. Trees closed in around him. Cell service dropped. The GPS stopped working. He kept going. Finally, he reached it. The cabin stood still, swallowed in moss and shadow. Windows boarded up. A rusted swing hanging from a tree branch creaked with the wind. He stepped out of the car. The air felt wrong. Heavy. Electric. He pushed open the cabin door. Darkness swallowed him. The inside was covered in dust. But something was strange. No cobwebs. No rat droppings. Someone had been here. Recently. Ryan moved through the rooms slowly, heart pounding. He passed the small kitchen, the wood-burning stove, the table with 2 empty cups. Then he reached the back room. It was locked. He kicked it open. And froze. Inside was a wall lined with photos. Newspaper articles. Maps with red string connecting points. A timeline, stretching across the wall like something from a spy movie. Emily's handwriting everywhere. Notes like, "Do not trust the clinic. He's still watching. If found, destroy everything." At the center was a single photo. Ryan. A younger version of him, before the money, before the success. The caption underneath read, "If he finds out, it all falls apart." Suddenly, a floorboard creaked behind him. He spun. Emily stood in the doorway. Pale. Older. Hollow-eyed. But very much alive. Emily didn't speak right away. She stood frozen in the doorway, her face drawn, like she hadn't slept in weeks, or years. The woman Ryan once knew was vibrant, fiercely witty, full of spark. But the Emily before him now looked like someone who had lived 1,000 lives in silence. Her eyes, though, those hadn't changed. They still carried storms. Ryan stepped back, his breath shallow. "You're alive." Emily nodded slowly. "I didn't want it to be like this." He stared at her, emotions boiling to the surface, anger, relief, confusion. "You let me believe you were dead. You vanished. You lied about everything." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "Because I had to." "No. You chose to." Emily flinched at his words, but didn't argue. Instead, she walked past him and sat on the dusty couch near the fireplace. "Sit down, Ryan. It's time you knew everything." He sat, reluctantly. The air between them was heavy with unspoken history. Emily reached into her coat and pulled out an old photo album, thick and tattered. She set it on the coffee table between them and opened it. Page 1, a baby girl in a hospital bassinet. No name written. Page 2. The same girl, now a toddler, in a backyard with a swing set. "That's Ava," Emily said. "I gave birth to her when I was 21. Her father was not a good man." Ryan frowned. "You told me you had no family." "I lied," she replied quietly. "Because by the time I met you, Ava had already been diagnosed. Stage 4 leukemia. I was in the middle of trying to save her life, and failing. Ryan's voice softened, despite himself. You were a mother. And you were alone. Emily nodded. The treatments weren't working. The doctors gave her 6 months. I was desperate. That's when I met Dr. Leonard Harrow. The man in the articles? Yes, she said. He promised me a clinical trial overseas, revolutionary treatment. He claimed he could cure her, or at least give her years instead of months. Ryan remembered the file the girl at the cafe had given him. But it wasn't real, was it? It was real enough, Emily said, bitterly. The treatment had results, but only in the short term. Then the side effects kicked in. Harrow didn't care. He was using these children as guinea pigs for unregulated drug trials. Half the parents didn't even know. I only found out when Ava started bleeding internally. And then she went blind in one eye. She turned the page again. A photo of Ava in a wheelchair. Emily's voice cracked. I pulled her out of the program. Harrow threatened me. Said he'd report me for kidnapping her from a licensed facility. That he'd take her back. Ryan's hands curled into fists. Why didn't you come to me then? Why didn't you let me help? Because it was already too late, she said. I had to disappear. With her. So I did. Emily stood and walked to the wall covered in newspaper clippings. She pointed to one. Clinic whistleblower disappears, suspected foul play. That was me, she said. I had gathered enough evidence to take them down, but if I had gone public, they'd have buried me. Or worse. So I went into hiding. I created fake documents. Took Ava across borders, changed her name. For a while, we had peace. She smiled again. She even had a crush on a boy in our village. Ryan swallowed hard. But she didn't make it. Emily turned around, and for the first time, tears streamed down her face. She died in my arms. 1 year, 2 months, and 19 days after we left. She made it longer than the doctors said. But in the end, she was just a kid. And the disease was merciless. Ryan couldn't speak. His throat closed. His mind screamed. She made me promise one thing before she died, Emily continued. That I wouldn't let what happened to her happen to anyone else. That I would finish what I started. That's why you stayed hidden, Ryan whispered. That's why you left me. Emily looked at him with wet eyes. Yes. They sat in silence for a long time, the crackle of the old fireplace filling the space between them. Finally, Ryan asked, and the girl at the cafe? Who is she? Emily hesitated. Her name is Mira. She was Ava's closest friend in treatment. I helped smuggle her out after Ava died. I raised her from a distance. Taught her how to survive, how to hide, how to fight if needed. She's more capable than most adults I know. She said you were preparing for something. That this was all part of a plan. Emily walked to a cabinet in the corner and pulled out a thick folder, placing it on the table. Inside were names, phone numbers, hidden bank account transfers, offshore labs, photographs of people in lab coats with hidden cameras. I spent the last decade gathering intel, she said. Dr. Harrow moved operations to another country. New name, new clinic. But the same horrors. I tracked every move. This, she tapped the folder, is enough to expose him completely. Ryan scanned the documents. The evidence was damning. And you need me, he said. To get this to the world. Emily nodded. You've built a public image. A reputation. You have media contacts, legal reach. You can go where I can't. He leaned back. You think I'd help you after all this? I think, she said softly, you loved me enough once to still care. Ryan laughed bitterly. You left me. Lied. Faked everything. I did. And I'll never ask for forgiveness. But I'm asking for something else, help me finish this. For Ava. For the children still trapped in that system. For the people still being used. Silence settled again. Then Ryan stood. Walked to the door. Paused. Give me a day, he said without turning around. If I'm going to blow up my life, I need to think. Emily's voice was a whisper. That's more than I expected. That night, Ryan sat in his penthouse apartment with a drink in his hand and chaos in his mind. He stared at the skyline, numb. Everything he had believed for the last 10 years was a lie. Emily hadn't left him for another man. She hadn't abandoned him. She had gone to war. Alone. He opened the file again. Pages and pages of horrors. Testimonies. Hidden deaths. Silent families who thought their children had simply vanished. He poured another drink. And then another. And then he saw it. A photo. Hidden near the back of the file. A lab. A recent timestamp. A child restrained to a gurney. He dropped the glass. It shattered on the floor. That was the moment he made his decision. The next morning, Ryan drove back to the cabin. But Emily wasn't there. Instead, the cabin had been ransacked. Furniture overturned. Paper everywhere. Blood on the floor. And a note, tacked to the fireplace with a knife. We warned you to stop digging. Now she pays the price. The cabin was silent. Too silent. Ryan stood in the wreckage, heart pounding in his chest. Blood stained the wooden floorboards near the hearth, smeared in a struggle. Emily's folder was missing. Her laptop was gone. The maps, ripped from the walls. But it was the note that hit him like a freight train. We warned you to stop digging. Now she pays the price. Ryan's hands trembled as he pulled the paper free from the knife. It wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration. They had Emily. And they weren't hiding anymore. His mind raced. Who were they? How had they found the cabin? Was Mira safe? He stepped outside, his breath curling in the cold air. The forest loomed around him, still and eerie. No tire tracks. No signs of forced entry. Whoever took Emily had been careful. Precise. Clean. Too clean. These weren't just criminals. They were professionals. He didn't go home. He drove straight to the last person Emily had trusted, Mira. Mira lived in a tiny apartment above a boxing gym downtown. Ryan found her in the training ring, slamming punches into a heavy bag like her life depended on it. When she saw his face, her expression darkened. Where is she? She's gone, Ryan said. They took her. Myra's jaw clenched. How do you know? Ryan pulled out the blood-stained note. She read it once. Then again. Her fingers crushed the paper. They found her. That means they'll come for you next. Ryan's eyes narrowed. I don't care. We have to get her back. Mira turned away. It's not that simple. I don't need simple, he said. I need possible. She looked over her shoulder. You sure about that? Because where we're going, you won't come back the same. Ryan stepped into the ring. Tell me what you know. What Mira told him over the next hour changed everything. The man behind the experiments, the man Emily called Harrow, wasn't just a rogue doctor. His real name was Dr. Lucas Renner. Once a high-ranking researcher for a global biotech firm, Renner had been dismissed quietly after a scandal involving unauthorized human trials. But instead of facing charges, he disappeared, protected by a shadowy syndicate with deep ties in the pharmaceutical industry. Renner resurfaced under a new identity, setting up clinics across Latin America, Africa, and Eastern Europe. His operations were untraceable. His patients, mostly children, were undocumented or terminal, easy to erase. Emily was the only one who ever got close, Mira said. She found one of his secondary labs. Blew the whistle. Destroyed their servers. But that just made her their biggest threat. Ryan nodded. Now he wants to make an example of her. Mira tapped a photo on her wall, a blurry satellite image of a remote building in the mountains of Colombia. This is where she thought Renner was hiding now. It's not on any map. No roads. Only way in is by air or foot. Ryan stared at it. Then that's where we go. Mira paused. You're serious? Dead serious. She folded her arms. You ever held a gun? No. Ever killed someone? No. You might have to. Ryan met her eyes. Then teach me. 3 days later, they were in Bogota. Ryan wore a new identity, false passport, burner phone, no digital trail. Mira handled everything, logistics, transport, weapons. She'd lived off-grid for years. Now Ryan saw why. In the cramped back room of a safe house, Mira laid out their plan. Renner's compound is 2 hours northeast of here. Fenced, armed, minimal staff, but lethal. He trusts tech over people. Security drones. Cameras. Electronic locks. Ryan studied the map. How do we get in? We don't. Not through the front, anyway. She pointed to a ravine behind the facility. There's a drainage channel that runs under the lab. Narrow, but crawlable. He frowned. You've done this before? Not this place, she said. But enough like it. And once we're in, we find Emily. We take the data. We burn the place to the ground. Ryan stared at the weapons on the table, handguns, flash drives, stun grenades. He still wasn't sure he could use any of them. But he had no choice. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. And redemption. They left before sunrise. A contact drove them as far as the foothills, then they hiked, 5 hours through dense jungle. By late afternoon, the compound came into view, a fortress of steel and concrete tucked between cliffs, with solar panels and a helipad. From a distance, it looked like a research center. Up close, it looked like a prison. They waited until nightfall. Then they moved. The drainage tunnel was just as Mira described, barely wide enough to crawl through. It stank of chemicals and rot. The metal grates were rusted, but sealed. Mira pulled out a compact torch cutter and went to work. As they slipped into the lower corridor, Ryan felt his pulse climb. The halls were dimly lit. No guards. Just silence. Too much silence. They crept past lab rooms, sealed behind thick glass. Inside, Ryan saw things he would never forget. A child, barely 12, hooked to machines, eyes open but unseeing. A woman restrained to a gurney, skin jaundiced, whispering nonsense. Rows of shelves filled with blood samples. This isn't a lab, Ryan whispered. It's a graveyard. Mira nodded. Come on. We're close. Then they saw her. Through a small window at the end of the hall, Emily, shackled to a chair in a sterile white room. A single camera in the corner. Ryan's breath caught. She was alive. Bruised, weak, but alive. Mira tapped his shoulder. Stay here. I'll disable the camera. She slipped around the corner, vanishing like a ghost. Ryan stayed by the door, heart hammering. Then a voice spoke behind him. Well, well. The prodigal husband returns. Ryan spun around. Dr. Lucas Renner. Clean-shaven. Cold eyes. Lab coat pristine. Flanked by two men in black. He smiled. I've been expecting you. Ryan lunged. The guards grabbed him, slammed him to the floor. Renner crouched beside him, adjusting his cufflinks. You've caused quite a mess, Mr. Blake. Do you know how hard it is to run a quiet operation these days? Everyone wants to expose something. Ryan struggled, furious. You're a murderer. Renner's smile widened. I'm a scientist. Pioneering treatments no one else dares attempt. The children I treat, no one else would touch them. I give them a chance. Most die anyway, but some survive. You torture them. I test them, Renner said calmly. And thanks to your lovely wife, I've had to relocate 3 times. He stood, brushing off his coat. But that ends tonight. You and your little friend, Mira, is it, you'll vanish quietly. Like the others. He turned to his men. Take him to holding. I'll deal with Emily personally. But Renner made one mistake. He underestimated Mira. As the guards dragged Ryan away, a smoke grenade exploded in the hallway. Alarms blared. Mira appeared from the shadows, firing 2 quick shots. The guards fell. Ryan grabbed one of their pistols. Renner was already running. Go! Mira shouted. I'll find the data. You get Emily. Ryan sprinted down the corridor, heart racing. He kicked the door open. Emily looked up, stunned. Ryan? No time, he said, unshackling her. We have to go. Now. They raced back through the halls as flames erupted behind them. Myra's bomb had triggered the chemical storage unit. The building shook. Outside, the jungle was ablaze with orange light. As they emerged through the drainage tunnel, gunfire cracked behind them. Mira caught up, blood on her shoulder but grinning. Got the servers, she gasped. All of them. They didn't stop running until they reached the ridge. Helicopters whirred in the distance, but too late. The compound burned. Renner was gone. But so was his empire. The compound burned for hours. Smoke curled into the night sky, blotting out the stars. Ryan, Emily, and Mira watched from a safe distance, hidden among the trees on the mountainside, bruised, bloodied, and exhausted. But alive. They'd made it out. Just barely. Emily leaned against a tree, her face pale. He got away. Ryan didn't answer. He couldn't. His mind was still racing, the sights in that facility haunted him. The children. The machines. The inhuman coldness of Renner's words. He turned to Mira. You said you got the data? Mira nodded, lifting a scorched hard drive from her backpack. Every file, every test result, every offshore transaction. It's all here. If we release this. It's not enough, Emily interrupted, her voice hoarse. He'll deny it. Say it's fabricated. We need one more thing, someone who saw it all from the inside. Ryan looked at her. A witness. Yes, she whispered. And I know where to find her. 3 days later, they were in Lisbon, Portugal. Renner's network was global, but not impenetrable. Emily had spent years chasing whispers across continents. And now, she followed one more, a woman named Isabel Cruz. She had been Renner's top researcher, until she disappeared 5 years earlier. Rumor was, she had fled with guilt gnawing at her soul. Emily had once tracked her to Lisbon. But at the time, she couldn't afford to risk exposure. Now, she had nothing left to lose. They found Isabel in a small seaside village, working in a flower shop under an alias. At first, she denied everything. Said she didn't know anyone named Lucas Renner. That she'd never worked in medicine. But when Emily showed her a photo of Ava, her daughter, Isabel's resolve broke. Tears welled in the woman's eyes. I remember her. Sweet girl. She used to bring me paper cranes. Ryan stepped forward. You were there. You saw what happened. Isabel sat down behind the shop counter, her hands trembling. I didn't know at first. He told us we were saving lives. He showed us charts, data, recovery rates. I believed him. Emily's voice was steady. What changed? One night, a child started convulsing during an injection. He told us not to stop. Not to interfere. I begged him to call emergency services. Her voice cracked. He said, let nature sort the strong from the weak. Mira clenched her fists. Ryan felt sick. I left the next day, Isabel said. But I took something. She reached beneath the counter and pulled out a small silver USB drive. Encrypted files. Video logs. His voice. His face. Proof he knew everything. Ryan took the drive gently. You're the key. With you, we can expose him. Isabel hesitated. He'll kill me. Emily met her eyes. Or you can save hundreds of children he hasn't hurt yet. There was silence. Then Isabel nodded. I'll testify. 1 week later, they were back in London. Ryan used every contact he had, lawyers, journalists, human rights organizations. The story exploded. The headline hit international media in under 24 hours. Rolled-up newspaper, pharmaceutical horror, underground clinics use children as human guinea pigs, billionaire doctor exposed. Video files. Audio recordings. Witness testimony. Renner's name was tied to over a dozen unregistered clinics. Some still operating. Others burned to erase evidence. Emily and Mira went public, anonymously. Isabel, though terrified, appeared on international news under full protection. Interpol issued a red notice for Dr. Lucas Renner. His face was everywhere. His empire collapsed overnight. But he still wasn't caught. Ryan sat in his penthouse apartment weeks later, staring at the television. The screen showed footage of another lab being raided in Cambodia. Yet Renner remained a ghost, always one step ahead. He heard the elevator door open behind him. Emily stepped in quietly. Another clinic down, she said. That's 8. Ryan nodded. And still no sign of him. She walked over to the window, her voice distant. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't left? If I'd told you everything from the beginning? He turned to face her. Every day. She met his eyes. Do you hate me? He didn't answer for a long time. Then, no. I was angry. Broken. But hate, that takes energy. And after all this, I'd rather use mine to fix what we can. She smiled softly. We did good, didn't we? Ryan stepped forward, gently taking her hand. We did better than good. We ended something no one else could even see. A month later, Ryan received an unmarked envelope. Inside, a single photograph. A beach. Renner. Standing with a drink in his hand. Relaxed. Unbothered. The back read. You may have burned the house, but I'm still free. You can't kill a ghost. L. Ryan showed it to Emily and Mira. Their faces hardened. Mira said what they were all thinking. This isn't over. 6 months passed. Renner sightings came in from South Africa, Dubai, and then Brazil. All dead ends. Interpol remained on his trail. But there was no arrest. Until a call came one stormy night. A journalist Emily had worked with in Berlin. Out of breath. Frantic. I found something. But I'm being followed. He gave them an address. Then the line went dead. When they arrived, the apartment was ransacked. Blood smeared on the walls. And one photo left pinned to the table. Emily. Younger. Holding Ava in her arms. A note scribbled below. She wasn't the only secret you buried. Emily stared at it, breath caught. What does it mean? Ryan asked. But she didn't answer. She just turned and walked away, her face pale. Mira caught up to her. Emily? Emily's voice trembled. There's something I never told you. Something I hoped I'd never have to. Ryan followed. What secret? Emily turned to face them. Before Ava died. I wasn't pregnant with just one child. The silence in the room turned heavy. I had twins. Ryan froze. What? Emily's voice broke. I lost Ava. But the other, she was taken before I could even name her. I thought she was dead. But now. She looked at the photograph again. The way it was delivered. The phrasing. He has her. Ryan stared at her, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? Because I never knew the truth. Until now. A new hunt had begun. Not for revenge. But for a daughter they didn't know was still alive. And for the man who still held her like a pawn in his cruel game. The war wasn't over. It had only just begun. Epilogue. 1 year later, Dr. Lucas Renner's clinics had all been exposed or dismantled. Interpol remained in pursuit. The world had turned against him. But still, he was out there. Watching. Waiting. Planning. And Emily, Ryan, and Mira? They'd become more than just survivors. They were warriors now. Truth chasers. Guardians of the voiceless. And they had one mission left. Bring Renner down. And bring their daughter home. No matter the cost.